The COVID relief plan passed the House. Now, a breakdown of President Biden's $1.9 trillion stimulus plan. It passed the House in a near party line vote shortly after midnight Saturday night. Here's a look at the pie. You read it right. 9% of the money is going toward coronavirus health spending. 91% of the $1.9 trillion is being reserved for non-COVID special interest projects. This was first revealed by my next guest. My next guest says we should stop calling this a COVID relief plan and instead refer to it as the Pelosi payoff. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy joins me right now. And Congressman, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks very much for being here. Welcome.
Good morning, Maria. Thanks for having me back.
Let's take a look at this pie, which you tweeted out. You've got money for the unions. You've got money for the rail car in San Francisco, Pelosi's tunnel, Schumer's bridge, National Endowment for the Arts getting almost $300 million, Planned Parenthood, universities, another several $100 million. Walk us through why this is called a COVID-19 relief bill when you only have 9% of the $1.9 trillion actually allocated for COVID-related spending.
It's just unbelievable. This thing is just so corrupt, so costly, and you look at it, it's just so liberal. Think about it for one moment. Only less than 9%. We have done 5 other COVID bills, and every single one of those was bipartisan. The Biden administration has become the most partisan administration in modern history. Think for one moment, we still have $1 trillion sitting out there that has to be appropriated, sent to the economy. The money in this bill for schools, 95% of it won't even go out this fiscal year. 2/3 of it won't go out to 2023. I mean, the real focus here should putting people back to work, back to school, and back to health. This bill does not do it. And the irony here is Nancy Pelosi, when it came public that she put in $112 million for a subway project that has failed just outside of her district in Silicon Valley, in the dead of night right before, she added more money to it. It's up to $140 million. What we did, we tried to redirect the money. We put an amendment up to say, let's take that $140 million, apply it to parents to be able to use it for their children's mental health. With kids being out of school, 3 million of them more for the last year, we find depression, suicide, anxiety. In my own district, I'm finding the D's and F's are continuing to go forward. We could redirect that money to be spent there. Every single Democrat voted no on that.
Well, I mean, every single Republican in the House voted no on this bill, and it still passed. So they're in the lead.
Yes.
What are you going to do about it? Can you, as the leader of the Republican Party, do anything about this agenda that includes executive orders that blow off the law and money for pet projects?
You're right. The only bipartisan vote we had on the overall bill was no. Every Republican and 2 Democrats joined with us. You know, the Democrats only have a 5-seat majority. They just spent almost $2 trillion in the most partisan way you can. But you know the one thing that they did cut? Medicare. This bill cuts more than $36 billion this year from Medicare and next year for the next 10 years. That's what the Democrats voted for. So what we need is people joining with us. And I believe if you look forward, their agenda has going so far. The socialists have brought this swamp back. That's what this bill shows. The swamp is back in Washington, and that's what we have to fight. And I think we're going to put up a pretty good fight. And you wait. I believe in a short time frame here, you're going to watch us winning.
So you're going to win the House, you believe, in 2022?
Well, I believe it for so many reasons. I mean, think of the future between Democrats versus Republicans. The future for the Democrats is Governor Cuomo, Gavin Newsom, Eric Swalwell. Now think about the Republicans. We've got Senator Tim Scott, Kristi Noem, Governor Ron DeSantis. I think our ideas have proven, especially in the last year, that we help people. We keep states open. And one of the worst parts of this last COVID relief bill, they changed the funding systems to states where they reward bad behavior. So if you have a pension out of whack, if you overspent your money, if you kept your state closed, you get rewarded by taking hardworking taxpayers' money and giving it to them instead of states that have done the right thing about keeping open, getting kids back in school.
Well, congratulations on this. Rasmussen reports and this favorability survey. The survey indicated that you had a 43% favorability rating, a larger number than any other congressional leader. 35% had an unfavorable view of you. You are the leader here in terms of favorability. Reaction to the fact that Mitch McConnell was at 29%, Schumer even worse than that at 33%, AOC 34%, and Nancy Pelosi at 37%, lowest favorability rating in Congress. Congressman.
Well, I think the American public just simply say that they do not want the swamp back. They do not want these socialist ideas. And the one thing I have always said, and your viewers know this, we will listen to those men and women that have not been listened to before, the forgotten man and woman. Those are the people that we're working for, to make America first and continue to grow. This idea that we have this new partisan administration that opens the border, has a plan to open the border but not open our schools. The Democrats, their very first bill, their most important bill that they're moving, that you talked a little bit about, H.R. 1, is about protecting them, not helping the American public. They want to take taxpayers' money, the hardworking taxpayer, to use it on their own campaigns. They want to change election law so they can change the system so they would be guaranteed that they would always win. They want to have a czar that would take away free speech and what's happening in campaigns. This is the most important thing to them, to just hold on to power.
I'm really glad you brought this up, because this was my next subject to raise with you. Nancy Pelosi's #1 priority is election reform. You, being the leading Republican, you have the most to lose from an unfair election. What are you going to do to ensure that the future elections are safe and fair? Here's what Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas wrote. Unclear rules threaten to undermine this system. They sow confusion and ultimately dampen confidence in the integrity and fairness of elections. To prevent confusion, we have thus repeatedly, although not as consistently as we should, blocked rule changes made by courts close to an election. So this is a major issue, and Republicans continue to worry that you're not going to have any leadership positions so long as elections are not fair. I spoke with Senator Rand Paul this past week on Mornings with Maria over on Fox Business. He says, did Georgia had a big win because state senators passed a bill to require identification to vote. There's a novel thought. How about ID to vote? Here is Rand Paul this week with me. Listen to this.
I'm terrified of election integrity, and I'm all for election integrity, but the opposite of what Nancy Pelosi thinks that is. I think we need to have in-person voting, and it needs to remain in control of the states. So I've been going around to each of the states, including my state, and trying to get election law reformed. I think you need to vote in person, but I think we also need to make it such that secretaries of state and the government shouldn't be out paying and using taxpayer money to go to your house with ballots and applications to vote.
Congressman, your reaction.
I don't have the most to lose. The American public have the most to lose, because we would lose our freedom. This is, when you put a bill into Congress, the majority party reserves the first numbers. This is H.R. 1, so this is most important for Nancy Pelosi to hold on to her power. What we have to do is, people lose their confidence in election, you'll break society down, and we will lose America as we know it. We know that there's a real question when in the confidence in the last election going forward. What you have to do is exactly this. You have to clean up the rolls. We've watched in L.A. where they have more than 1 million people on their rolls when they don't even have people that age that have that many people there. You have to sue to make sure you clean up the rolls. We've got to make sure there's integrity. There's a recall going on in California. I will guarantee you that Gavin Newsom makes sure that they're checking the idea of who signs that recall more than they're checking the idea of who's voting in California. You can't have a mass ballot to people who don't even request it when these rolls are so bad. I think showing an ID to get on an airplane, yeah, I could do that. I can also show an ID to vote. Because in California, it's just like what they're doing in the COVID bill. They now want to give vaccines to illegal immigrants who are coming in before they're giving to Americans. In San Francisco, if you're illegal, you can vote in a school board race. They want people to be able to vote who are not Americans. We need to have integrity and accountability and elections that people will trust at the end of the day. And that's why we have to have reforms. And that's why H.R. 1 should be voted down.
Congressman, it's good to see you this morning. I know President Trump is going to be speaking at CPAC. We'll preview that when we come back with Peter Navarro. Kevin, we will see you soon. Congressman Kevin McCarthy. Back in a moment.
Thanks, Maria.